My name is Professor Steve Hake. I'm from Sheffield Hallam University. We are at the Weymouth and Portland Sailing Academy. Tonight we're going to unpick the science behind sailing. The point of tonight is to get the idea of the science that's behind the medals across to the general public. Perhaps some of the things that they don't get to see ordinarily. So we can tell them about surface roughness, we can tell them about the physiology requirements of an athlete, and we can tell them what it's like to be an elite athlete out there on the water. Tonight we've got Glenn McHale, and he's from the University of Northumbria. Now his expertise is on surface coatings and in particular hydrophobicity, and that is the ability of surfaces to repel water. So what he does is he manipulates surfaces in a certain way so that you get water droplets rolling over the surface.
I was interested in water repellency, how liquids, water in particular, interacts with surfaces, so what's called the lotus effect. And you sort of see it if you're in the kitchen washing a cabbage, and you see the water shoot off. And so these are surfaces that are extremely water repellent. A metal paperclip, right, floating around. It's not floating, of course, it's surface tension. It's the skin effect of water. It doesn't break the surface of water. And that's one of the effects I deal with. Well, you might imagine that the slippiest surface is got by polishing something so it's completely smooth. But if you imagine water being able to cheat and it cuts across from one peak to the other, and so is hardly in contact with the solid at all, it just leaps from mountain tip to mountain tip. Then you can make surfaces, such as this one, from which water will bounce and will roll off. You see it's stuck at the edge. Dip it in the water. What do you think will happen in the water? A silvery sheen.
Yeah, there is.
So when you put this card in, the water doesn't come into contact with it, and what you see is the light reflecting off the air. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The surface finish on the boat is a sort of the holy grail. Everyone would love to have a special surface finish. If you talk to 5 different people, you'll get 5 different answers to what is best. And we've tried all sorts of things, but unfortunately, we've probably never really been able to access enough sort of real data to be able to say this is what works.
Well, we've been looking to see whether in fact you do get an advantage in terms of drag reduction, because it's not obvious. Although these surfaces clearly shoot droplets of water off, is that the same as pulling a surface through the water? And so we're trying to establish whether or not you can get drag reduction from a surface that's been treated in this way. We know theoretically you can. You can create essentially what's a layer of air between the water and the solid, and if you do that, then you should in principle be able to reduce drag. Of course, doing that in practice is a lot harder.
If you know where the dominant tides are going to be, if you know how things are going to react when you're sailing out there in the water, you know which direction the winds are going to go, and you know what the subtle patterns are, that could lead to the difference between a silver and a gold medal.
Been to different regattas in the world. When the team went out to Qingdao, and for the last Olympics there was a lot of current there, mixed amounts in Athens in the Med, and there was generally a lot of current in the Med. It doesn't flow uniformly across the sea. It varies from place to place and in strength and direction. So understanding that and understanding where it's strong, where it's weak, and the direction that it flows in is critical.
Dr. Judith Wolfe is from the National Oceanography Centre in Liverpool.
We produce what are actually co-tidal charts. It's a map of the currents over the area of the racing, and that will show them hour by hour which direction the current is flowing. To set up our models, we need to get really good bathymetry of the area. That can be quite a challenge, so you need really high resolution, the best you can get. And then we run our models on the supercomputers at our institute, and we develop a database of the harmonics, the same type of tidal analysis as you do from tide gauges. Eventually, we produce these maps, and the sailors can consult them on the day of the race. And we actually use Newton's laws of how gravity works, so that, you know, the gravitational attraction of the moon and the sun are what drive the tides. So we're going right from outer space right down to really local scales. So this is how the tides are behaving just off Portland Bill. You can see very strong currents off this headland. And then the tide turns about 1 o'clock in the morning and it starts ebbing. The maximum flow here is nearly 1 metre per second, quite strong. Our models are getting better and better, of course, because we have more and more powerful computers. I think we can do tidal modelling quite well, but with a scale that we'd probably go down to could be finer. There are certain things that we can improve on. Things like friction, exactly how the friction on the seabed slows down the tidal currents. That's a tricky one, so we're still working on that, and will be for some time to come, I'm sure.
Does it really matter if you're a tiny bit faster or slower than the other guy? Well, actually, it's absolutely critical how fast you can sail your boat out. If you can be a tiny little bit quicker than somebody else, it might just be the difference between you crossing in front of them or having to go behind them. As soon as you go behind them, you've lost at least one boat length. So we can add all those little incremental gains together, then we'll end up with one small gain that could well be the difference between winning and losing a gold medal here in the summer.